name is Money Jessel.
Okay, you know, I think she dresses my friend Sonia Beeksma, Sonia Mange.
Sonia Mange.
Yes.
I know Sonia.
You do?
We did
oh my
talk.
God. Ah, yes,
I love
yes.
Sonia.
She's still in here. She's
Actually,
still
you know
here.
what's so funny about Sonia? I was saying to my husband, I was like, I met this woman and I want to be her friend. And she messaged me the other day because she was going to Othership, and I was like, I love Othership. She was like, do you want to come with me? And I was like, I have like a woman crush on her.
Oh,
but
great.
yeah, I love Sonia.
Yes, and I love her style.
How do you know Sonia?
From here, from Vancouver.
Oh, she from Vancouver?
Yeah, yes, her dad.
Oh.
Yeah. But she moved there, I think, during COVID or just before. Like,
Okay.
yes, yeah, because the whole entertainment, the interviewing scene is like much more
Yeah.
And she gets to go interview Tom Cruise in Italy, and like, I'm like, jealous.
Yeah. You have to interview me.
I know, no, and you get to, you're coming to me. That's even better. That's even better.
So you guys know what we're actually gonna have to get
Sure,
going.
you got it.
We're gonna keep talking.
And then can you maybe slip it down there?
Yeah, sure. I'll put
And
it
then
around the back.
clip it exactly.
You got it. Oh my God, Zara, this view is stunning, and yeah, your patio is massive. Your little fireplace out there.
I don't know if you saw this already, but congratulations.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, somebody messaged me. I didn't know we were in the Globe. Did we do? When did we do the Globe? Apart then.
Aparta, remember later night, like
Can you send me that? I'm so curious to see what she's written.
I haven't read it yet, but yes, I just saw it in my.
Oh my God, I'm gonna message her.
That's why we stayed till like 7:30.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
like
this
over
was
like,
just
you
this.
know, I love
Yeah.
her. I really loved her.
Are you guys going to Zara's house?
What?
Yeah, this lovely like Eastern European man.
Was it probably is he handsome, like tall, white hair?
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
one of the managers.
Oh, that's
Yes,
You
yes.
know, he's like, you go see Zara.
Yes.
How did you know?
It's like all the beautiful people.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Mike, do I need to touch him or anything? Maybe
So we are
just
right
like
Okay, running.
Sure,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So do I need to?
No, you're good.
I'm good.
So
Okay.
you're gonna sit here.
Okay, I'm gonna sit
and
right
then
here.
I guess
Okay.
we'll sit there.
All right, wonderful.
Sounding great.
Okay, wonderful. The sound. And I'm gonna grab my coffee quickly.
Let me see.
Just so everyone knows, we are live.
Okay, perfect.
So, yep.
Live.
We decided to go live right away on YouTube.
On YouTube. Oh,
Yes,
great.
yes,
Perfect. Are we live right now?
yes.
We are
Okay,
indeed.
I'm gonna do a lippy touchy.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
And then,
That's fine.
and then I go in. Okay. Thanks.
I was thinking, Supinder, you're such a hero for like last night and then coming here this morning. And Micah said you guys he's starting at 5 a.m. today.
No, 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Okay.
So I didn't get to bed until like 1 a.m. But yeah.
I saw you were reposting. I'm like, what time? I couldn't sleep last night because I'm like, I
I
need
know
to.
that.
The hype.
Yeah, because we left like around 11:20, I think. And so I got home, I think it was like 12. And yeah, I couldn't get to bed until like 1:30 because it was just like, oh, it was a lot of energy. It was, yeah. But honestly, like, anybody who will have us, I'm just like, I want to talk about the show. I want people to watch the show. And like, thank you so much, babe. A little moisture. Unless I had so many like young women coming up to me and just being like, I loved this show so much. And
Wait
so
till I tell you like my connection with that. You're just like, yeah. I can't wait.
Okay, give me one quick second.
I was like this like last night. I'm like, I need to like. I don't even drink, and I'm just like drinking water at the event, and I came in and I'm just like hyped up.
Yeah.
I went home and I had one glass of wine. And I woke up this morning feeling like I was completely hungover because it was just like I didn't, you don't realize how much energy you put out.
Of course.
Thank you.
Why am I shiny? I'm gonna.
Sorry, it's just like, when your skin is tired
Oh, I know.
and it's eating everything.
And the girl yesterday who did my makeup, she's like, your skin is really dry. I'm like,
What?
thanks. I really want to hear that. My skin is really dry.
No,
thank you for saying that. Okay, Julian, are we ready to rock and roll? Silent, rolling, and phones on silence, airplane. Okay. Can I get you water?
I would love a water.
Okay.
Thank you. Also, Kara, Micah, if you guys want to go for a walk or get some coffee, you're more than welcome to.
And I can give you my thingies.
Do you want to do
It's
that
right
before we start so you're not stuck just here? Winston, you too. You sure?
Feels like I'm saying
Do you think they should take Loki with them?
Have fun.
Zara, do you think they should take Loki?
I'm sorry?
Do you think they should take Loki?
No.
I wanna
It's
give
really-
everything.
Are you interested in taking your nephew?
We're gonna be going in places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, these cold plunges that you guys do.
Yeah. I know. I slept in last Friday. I was like, guys, I need to sleep in because my schedule was just so off.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like this, but I'm like this, that even if I've known something for like months and it's due, like, I will put it in 30 minutes before. I'm just like so terrible. Even with any kind of, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I like get with it?
Do you know what? Now that I have a son, I'm getting better at it because I know that some like things with him just come up. So if I have something to do, I will get it done as soon as I can because he's now the person that I'm just like, I can't have that. But before, yeah, I was the exact same way.
Yeah, causing extra drama. Okay, we're gonna get going over here. Hello everyone, welcome back to another exciting and hopefully inspiring, I know it's always inspiring for me, episode of On Location with Zara Durrani, produced with the support of TELUS STORYHIVE. Joining me is someone that I'm so excited she could come here today. This just came to be a couple of days ago. She is the star of a new CBC show that launches this evening on CBC and CBC Gem. I'm talking about award-winning Canadian actress, I just got chills, Supinder Wraich. Hi!
Hi, thank you for that lovely
I'm not
intro.
excited at all. Can you tell my voice? I'm sorry, Julian, the voice levels are just going up.
It's okay. It's okay. So we premiered the show last night to friends and family. It premieres tonight actually at 9 p.m. on CBC Gem. Actually, it's live on CBC Gem right now, but at 9 p.m. tonight, people can watch it on the broadcast channel. And you were there, and you look beautiful.
You looked amazing. I loved what you were wearing. I have to say, the show, me and the audience, I am the type of person if I'm in the show, my body is twitching and moving, and when things are happening, I hope people are not gonna hate me for saying this. I barely even watch shows that I'm in or shows that are filmed in Vancouver. This show, I was at the edge of my seat. I'm like, what's gonna happen? What is she gonna deal with next? Is she gonna get attacked? What?
Is she gonna survive her first day of work? Yeah. It's so funny because if it was, we had a couple of real police officers, our CMP Surrey police there, and they were all just like, well, my first day was nothing like that. And it's like, yeah, it's a wild first day for Sabrina, but yeah, I could feel it too in the audience. I think that there was this just quiet, right? And that's a really good indication that, people aren't shuffling in their seats or coughing or opening wrappers or on their phones or whatever. And that, yeah, it was a good indication that, okay, I think that we have their attention. And so, what a fun moment to be able to share with our cast and crew and friends and family ahead of sharing it with the rest of the world. Yeah, it was a really exciting moment. Thank you for coming.
Are you kidding? Okay. My family lives in Surrey. I have to get myself, I live downtown, to be like, okay, it's gonna take me a bit to go there, but come hell or high water, I was going to be there. And I just felt so honored, and it was such a moment to see so many of our artists, South Asian artists, as well as like Minister of Trade and all these individuals, and City of Surrey hosting this.
Yeah.
You could feel it, and I'm sure you've heard this quite often, the significance of the fact that we have a South Asian lead, a female South Asian lead on CBC who is playing a police officer.
Yeah, and I think it's also, significant that we were celebrating that show in Surrey because the series takes place in Surrey. It was shot in Surrey. Some of those, so I hadn't seen, I'd seen some stuff during ADR, but I hadn't seen the full episode until last night because I wanted to watch it with everybody. And to see Surrey on screen, like the streets of somebody actually made a funny comment. They were like, I've never seen the streets of Surrey with that little traffic. And so I was like, yeah, okay, touche, but those are your streets, and apparently that day there was less traffic. But yeah, I think there's something, I had a conversation this morning. I was like, there's something healing about seeing your community represented, the place where you reside represented, and it's not a comedy, like the show takes itself pretty seriously, and there's a respect for the city itself and the people who live there. And I think that just showcases itself on screen in the way that the city's shown, in the way that the residents are shown, even in the way that, like, that scene where in the first episode, Vince approaches that Punjabi woman and she pulls her child closer, even though he's a police officer, because to a certain extent there's a mistrust of the police in the city, and to have a character like Sabrina that's a reflection of this community. And for me, it was really powerful in that moment when we shot that scene to be able to make the choice to speak in Punjabi, to have your
Was
language.
that your decision, or it was written like that?
No, it was my decision.
Okay.
It was my decision because, there was a couple of things when I was creating this character of Sabrina that I wrestled with because, so Sabrina, just for people who are watching who don't know, is a rookie officer. She's just finished Depot, which is the training program, and she's valedictorian. She's top of her class. Her father is the Minister of Health and Safety, and so he's got a very high position within the system, and has also risen through the ranks of the police force. Was a police officer himself prior to.
Played by Stephen Lobo,
Played by
who's
the
joining us
wonderful-
next.
Is he?
He's
Yeah.
coming here at 11:30.
Oh, he is.
Yes.
Oh, hopefully we'll run into him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steven's excellent. He's excellent in the show, and he really does, carry himself with this, like, pride and confidence as Ajit Sohal, of a politician, of a man who, he wears a turban, he has a beard, has a pride about the community and culture that he comes from. And so in the first episode of the inciting incident is that Steven's character is charged with treason. And so, Sabrina goes from this young woman who's had so much pride about the community that she comes from, and in a moment she falls to somebody who feels like they're seen and otherized and diminished because of the way that she looks. And then she's got to enter this organization that she's pledged an allegiance to serve and protect, that is actually the same organization that's going after her father. And so, it's a really
There's so
complicated.
many layers. And
Yeah. And
for me, I loved the moment when I had the opportunity to watch this, and even though I was sent the links of episode 1 and 2, you're so busy prepping, but to see it on the big screen with everyone and have those moments, those reactions. But I love the scene with your brother who's in the back,
yeah.
the black sheep of the family, and Stephen Lobo, who's your dad, and
Yeah.
he's giving you this medal.
Yeah.
Those little moments, and then when you go up there on the stage, we don't want to give away too many spoilers, but just the look in your eyes, and then you having to show up the next day, and your brother's just shocked, hey, you're gonna go do this after everything.
that's happened.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm not gonna let this derail me. And I think that, as women of color, like, you and I are both familiar with moments that we've had in our life where you have to step up. You have to step up, and you have to find that strength. Because I think that, because of, those misaligned associations, you're like, I don't want to maybe take this path or take a break that everybody else would get to take, because I have so much to prove. I have so much to overcome. And so, of course, she goes in that first day of work.
I would love to talk about that. So I had the opportunity to dig around a little bit other than allegiance. So you came to Canada, you were 8, is that correct?
It was 4.
4, sorry.
Yeah.
With your family, and you kind of knew earlier on you wanted to act, but
Yeah.
you weren't really sure how to really share that with your family.
Yeah.
Being an immigrant, moving to Canada at 17 with my Pakistani family, like, there was no way that could be a career. You could be a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, maybe an accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a lawyer.
Lawyer, yes, yeah. Like, but those were things
That's
that
the
were
list.
instilled in my brain from, like, a young age.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that there's parallels, that even though it's different emotions, but when you're preparing for a role and having, of course, your journey as an actor, like you won these awards, you worked on many different productions, but to be the lead, and did you draw in from a lot of that experience, like from your childhood up to now, that you brought into the show?
Yeah, and I think that, well, first of all, you know, like even with telling my own parents, like it was a process. It was very much like, I was like, okay, I know that there's this thing that I want to do, but I know that if I tell them at that time, especially when I was like 16, 17, I knew they would shut it down, right? So I just didn't tell them, right? I didn't tell them until I got some sort of a foothold, and that was like after I was in university and had gone to film school and had an agent and was like, knew how to do it. So no one could say no. And that's kind of how
And
I
you
went
studied
about
a
it.
lot. You went to CFC. You did a lot of training.
No, I did the conservatory after I started acting.
Okay.
Because I hadn't really had any formal training.
Mm.
And so I started acting, and then I went back to school because I was like, I need to learn how to do this. But yeah, in terms of like pulling for Sabrina and my own personal experiences, you know, there was a difficult balance. And again, it's that same balance with, does Sabrina speak Punjabi or does she not speak Punjabi, in terms of creating this character? Because the differences between Sabrina and I are that I moved here when I was 4 years old, and Sabrina's family has been here for generations. And so in terms of our personal history, we're very different histories. And for the most part, you know, in terms of building this character, because of who Ajit Sohal is and how he represents himself, Sabrina's always associated who she is and where she comes from a place of pride and a place of, you know, that she's watched her father rise within the ranks of this association. And so she's seen that path and thinks, you know, that's something I can do. And for me, oppositely, I had never seen that path. I had never seen anyone that looked like me, that came from a family like mine. And like, you know, in terms of that association of, you know, doctors, lawyers, if that's what your parents want you to become, you know, I went to a school where so many of my South Asian friends, their parents were doctors, lawyers. And I come from a trucking family, like very blue collar, working class family. And so even that, like, you know, I don't even fit into like the model minority version of what South Asians are supposed to look like. And so building the what the differences between Sabrina and I were, that was one thing, but like where I could really give her my heart. And that was one of the things when, you know, I got the audition and was like, can I play this part? Do I know this girl? I'm not from Surrey. I haven't been here for generations. How do I find her? How do I play this part? But, you know, luckily the show starts where all of a sudden, in the instance of that moment when her father's arrested, she sees the world in a way that I've seen the world for a really long time. And so then I could be like, okay, I can, you know, then I know what it feels like to be ashamed of where you come from. Then I know what it feels like to, you know, be like just a little bit unsure of yourself when you walk into the room and other people don't look like you. And so, so that's kind of how I found her.
What was it like growing up and watching television? Like, what were some of your favorite shows? And did you ever have thoughts? I know as a kid, I never had a thought when watching Sesame Street or Full House, even though I admired those girls and I thought they were so beautiful. But I know subconsciously one of the things that I thought growing up in Pakistan, because when you pick up the Barbie or when you watch any kids' movies, there was no one who looked like me. So subconsciously, I interpreted that as, okay, I'm not beautiful or this or that or whatever the physical manifestation of because you're not seeing the representation on camera versus, you know, now that it's the different story. What was that like for you watching TV shows and movies as a kid?
I think, so like the shows that I watched, I'm not, like, it's not a proud moment here. It was like Saved by the Bell, 90210, Full House, right? It's like, and nobody looked like me, maybe Lisa. But I do remember thinking that like, oh, like just idolizing these people on TV. You know, I felt like I knew them and they like, just like what they got to do was so special. And I remember, like, when I was in high school, and sort of, you're, especially at that time where your hormones are at like a certain like tension point, and you're making all of these assessments of like, am I beautiful, am I not? And I remember, like, it was a very white high school that I went to, and just hearing like, oh my God, you're so pretty for an Indian girl, right? Yeah.
Or being shocked. Oh, I couldn't tell you're from Pakistan.
Yeah.
Oh.
As if it was a compliment.
Yes.
Have you seen Pakistani women?
I know,
They're
or Indian
gorgeous.
women.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What? But this like that like for where I get whatever that like
What does that mean?
yeah, that I was a leg above, right? Which in a sense, in that dramatic way, I was like, okay, so I think I am beautiful. Like, when you negotiate with yourself, like, okay, I think I am beautiful, but like not as beautiful as like Kelly Kapowski or these other women on TV, because and so at least I had enough of a nugget of confidence in that backwards way to be like, okay, like, because I didn't see other Indian women doing this, I felt like special in a way that seems outrageous to me now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, like, I don't see any other Indian women doing this, and I have people saying, well, you're really pretty for an Indian girl, so I was like, maybe I could do this, right? Which is so fucked up, like, when you break it down in terms of that sort of messaging. But so I had that nugget of confidence to be like, okay, I think I can do this. And what's wild is, like, I remember when I was like in grade, I want to say like maybe grade 5 or 6, and we had a substitute teacher who was an actor, and he was in the Got Milk commercial at the time. He was this like tall, lanky,
with like the little beard.
Yeah. They drink the milk,
Yeah.
they put the milk down. He was this tall, lanky white guy who looked nothing like me, right? And I didn't even recognize him from the commercial. And the other kids were like, oh my God, you're from the milk commercial. And then I remember becoming obsessed with him. Not because I was obsessed with him, but I was just like, you're here.
And you're in the commercial.
And you're in the commercial. How do you do that? But it just like gave me like a blink of like, okay, if you're here at my school and you're on the commercial, then like maybe I can be on the commercial. And so like I had little I guess like little lights or whatever along the way that eventually got me here.
I love that. Were there any movies or shows or actresses that really stand out for you when you look back, that you're like, okay, it was that show or it was this moment or this episode that it switched on, that you're like, I want to see if this is possible for me?
Yeah, I remember Water by Deepa Mehta with Lisa Ray, who's half Indian. And I remember watching that movie and just like, and it won an Oscar, right? And so it was in the zeitgeist for so long, and thinking, researching who Deepa Mehta was, researching Lisa Ray, and just be like, oh wow, like this is a South Asian Indian woman director, this is an Indian woman on screen, maybe this is a possibility. So that was a major one for me. I remember I used to have a poster of Water that a friend of mine got for me that Deepa Mehta had signed, that I would just like stare at. And so, yeah, I think that was it for me. I'm trying to think of
That's a
any
beautiful film, and I think Lisa also, I saw it a while back, shaves her head, right?
She does, yeah.
And it's just the way that it's photographed, like filmed.
It's
It's
a gorgeous
so,
performance
yes.
too. What was yours? Do you have one?
Oh my, that's a great question. Putting me on the spot. I don't know. I think I got on stage when I was like 3.5, and the teacher's kid, whose name was also Zara, was like the #1 in this little production in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Or 4, I forget how old I was. And I remember learning all the lines and wishing that this is so bad, that this kid would get sick, so I would get to, because even just being in the, doing the dances in the background, I just got something from it.
Yeah.
And there was something about having an audience and that I could use my voice. There was something around, I felt like I was a different person on stage or when I was performing than I was at home or with my family and friends. So I like it was a high,
That
right?
feeling, yeah. Robin Williams used to call it being in the pocket. That you're, I think that's what, the way he described it. I know exactly what you mean. You're in that pocket of that moment, and it's like you're more alive than you are here. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Talk to me about working with Enrico, because I'm such a fan of his work. I didn't get a chance to tell him this yesterday, but I was like, do I go up and be like, I binge watched Person of Interest, like I obsessed. And my friends were like, what show? I'm like, you didn't watch this show? This is before the whole AI thing. Like, I binge watched this like late at night.
Did they shoot that here?
No, I think it's shot in New York.
Okay,
but,
okay.
He was in that show, I think, in like 23 episodes or something, or 26. But
Yeah,
it's all about AI and government and Secret Service and all these things. I'm super
Does he
into.
play a police officer? No,
It's a while. I think he plays a bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
Yes.
Oh,
So
oh.
yeah, I super like loved his performance in that, and since then I've been a fan of his work. And to see you guys together, I was like, wow, this is so cool. And how he takes you under his wing, and you're out there doing your thing. I was like, yes, go Sabrina.
Yeah. Rico's wonderful. I'm gonna cry thinking of Rico. You know, I didn't realize until I watched the show last night how generous of an actor he was. Because so I met Rico when we auditioned for the show, and like we did our scene together. And Zara, like, it's just like, it happens like, like maybe 3 times in a lifetime or whatever, but like there was this moment where I was like, I just felt so safe and taken care of by this person. I can't, like, he's just so generous. And I remember thinking, being in the scene with him, because I wasn't sure that I was this girl, right? Like, I had done sort of, and I was playing Aksa, who's like this bold, brazen sister to Subby, and then I had a son. And so, when Sabrina came up, I just was like, she has such a naivete to her. And a year before my son was born, my father had passed away. And so this sort of like, rose-colored glasses way of seeing the world, in which, Sabrina really starts the show, was not one that I associated with anymore. And so I didn't know that I could play her. But I remember auditioning with Rico, and we were in the room and thinking, holy shit, like, if I get to work with this man, I will become a better actor. Because he just lifts. He lifts everybody who he performs with. And so I watched those scenes last night, and I was right. Because, like, people are like, oh, it's such a great performance. And I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it if he was not standing across from me, just being as open and as giving. And, like, he would come up to me and just, like, because it was a lot, right? He would say, what do you need? What do you need? Do you want to work at the lines? Do you want to... And he takes care of everybody on set. And it's just, like, he's, like, if I am good in this series, it is because I'm working across from this man who is so talented, and I'm a better actor for it. Like, yeah, I can't say enough good things about this man. He's wonderful.
And your performance, like, I get emotional because I'm sure you know this, you've heard this, but seeing you up there, so one of the things I wanted to tell you, February 5th is 24 years since my family moved to Canada. And then the fact, I remember turning on the television, it was CBC, and I saw everyone who didn't look like me. And there was no way I could have imagined. So honestly, with me, I'm such a person who's like in bed by 9 o'clock, and, but I said I have to be there for this premiere because it means so much to me and to so many women of color, to South Asian women and men, to witness your journey, to see your picture. You are us. I hope you know that, like, how proud we are. Oh,
Thank you.
Like,
yeah, I resonate. It is a moment for us.
yeah.
It really, really is. I'll tell you a story that, like, sort of signifies how far we've come. When I first started acting, I think this is, like 3 or 4 years in, I auditioned for a show that was on, I think it was CTV. Oh, my love. Oh, my love. Do you keep a box of tissues or something here for yourself?
Oh, I will.
Winston, you get a box of tissues?
It's
Oh,
okay. It's
babe.
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Well,
C'est bon. C'est bon.
you're a
This is happy.
beautiful
These
crier
are happy
also.
tears.
Yeah.
These are happy tears. These are totally happy tears.
But you're also a gorgeous crier, so you
oh,
just,
you're crying too. But it's such a moment, right?
It's
like
such
it's
a
such
moment. And so I remember I auditioned for this show that was like, you know, a Canadian series. I think I can't. Well, I don't want to say CTV because I can't actually remember. Maybe it was City. Maybe it was CBC. I can't remember the network that it was on. But I had auditioned for the love interest of the lead male character, and so I got a call from my agent, and she said, you know, you get a call from your agent. You said, okay, you're pinned, and they usually say you're number 2 or whatever. And she was like, you're the director's pick. You're not. You're the number 1 pick. And I was like, okay, like, should I clear my schedule or whatever? So excited. And she was like, yeah, you know, like, she said, and she had been an agent for like 20-something odd years, right? And she said, you know, I've never seen the director not get their number 1 pick. So, like, you know, this thing is happening, just prepare for it or whatever. And then the next day I got a call saying I didn't get the job because the network said no. And so I waited a couple of months. Like, first of all, I was devastated. So I was like, I don't understand. Like, if the person directing that episode picked me, why don't I get the job? Like, it was very, like, and I was new to it, so I really was trying to make sense of it. And so, so I, you know, waited a couple of months. I watched the show to see who they had chosen, and it was a white woman. And they went with the number 2 pick because they couldn't see their series lead being in love with a South Asian woman. And giving, you know, like, me that kind of platform, which at the time would have been career changing for me. And so that particular, you know, when you do everything you can, when you put in your work, when you are the pick for other people who want to support you, and you get to that ceiling, right? And you can't break it. And so the fact that now it's my motherfucking poster, and if I want a love interest, it's a South Asian man, totally cool.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've come that far in a matter of, you know, years, like, that's pretty special. That's pretty special. And so, like,
And to see you on the poster, like, you know, and to see as they were getting ready with the beautiful velvet curtains yesterday, and it's iconic, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure a lot of people during this press tour have been telling you, especially, you know, South Asian women interviewing you, have been mentioning that, like, it hits home. It hits home for us, that it's healing. Like you said, it's healing.
yeah.
To see you gorgeous up there in this uniform. And I want to talk a bit about the research and interview, because you work quite a bit closely with South Asian police officers who are women, female police officers,
Yeah.
and would love to hear from their perspective, you know, because I know our justice system isn't perfect, and Allegiance, as the show digs deep, hits home on that fact, and our Ali talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the conversations that I had with the Sikh female RCMP officers, it was more about just getting an idea of their experiences, and you know, some of them are relatable and some of them are not, because of the areas where they serve, because of the communities that they deal with. But like, what I think that, you know, I really valued out of those conversations was their tenacity as women to go into this organization, and you know, and not just RCMP but Surrey Police, because I think for a lot of families it's scary to have their daughters put themselves in the line of danger, like, every single day. But it was interesting because there's also pride that comes with being like, yeah, you know, that's my daughter in that uniform, and they bring that home with themselves, and that expands beyond their family into their relatives, into their and so that was a great takeaway. And then of course, you know, the technical aspects of how to hold the gun, how to enter a room, how to, watch your space to keep yourself safe in the body language and everything. But the other thing that I've also heard from so many women and people in the community is like, we've never seen a representation like this before in terms of a woman who looks like you playing a police officer. I had somebody come up to me yesterday and said, we're actively trying to recruit more women into the force, and so
all of a sudden the applications are coming.
We'll see, but I think a lot of it too was also already on the page in terms of the heart of this family, but I really do feel like I had a bunch of women come up to me and you're like, oh, like your face is on that poster, but I'm also one of you standing here being like, that's us.
Mm-hmm.
Like that we're we've been on this journey and we've been on this path, and like what a marker for all of us to have, myself included, to be here with everybody else and saying, okay, this is a place that we've reached that we should celebrate and have a moment of reflecting that we're here together.
Tell us about your training, because I feel like that's the exciting part for me, is where you get to play a police officer. Like, one of my favorite things to do is actually watch interviews with actors after watching a show or a movie where the person is totally transformed, and I like to hear what was their thought process, what did they do to really get into this role. I know you touched base on this a bit earlier, you did as well last night. Did you go do a mini boot camp, I don't know, their training, or were you spending weekends in a cop car with them? How was that process like for you? And did you do it throughout the show?
Yeah.
Which could be hard because you're working so much. How long did you prep yourself to get into the, to feel like I'm a cop?
You know what, it was pretty hard and fast. It was pretty much like I was living in Toronto, I got the call, I came here, I had about a week and a half to prep, and that's with costumes and that's with everything else, and we worked with a wonderful stunt coordinator, Reese, and every day, we would have consultants on set in terms of our body language and when we got things wrong, but really it was we had a couple days that we did all of that police training. But what's interesting, Zara, for me, that was the less interesting stuff. That for me was the let's get the technical parts of this story right, but I really think that the heart of this story is this young woman who, because the way that we're portraying the police is not, and also I had a stunt double, so I'm not doing all of that crazy stuff. That's my wonderful Aisha, that's somebody else who's specialized, and she goes to competitions around the world, and that's what she does, and she makes me look way better for it. But what I think the heart of the show in terms of the policing element is really the communication piece. And it's very rare, the moments in this series, that we take out our gun, and that's a very Canadian way of policing. I don't know if you remember, but we had this incident in Toronto where there was this man who's an incel, it turned out, and he hit this man, and he hurt a lot of women he was trying to hurt when he went onto the sidewalk and ran his van over the sidewalk. And there was that moment where that police officer, I think he had his hand on his gun the whole time, he didn't take it out, and just spoke to him and talked this man down. And I think that is the beauty of Canadian policing in terms of we're not guns out first, ask questions later. We are ask questions, assess the situation, and that's something that we've really worked hard to depict, that version of the police force. And so it's not as sexy as guns and action and stunts, and we have that stuff, but really I think that the guts of this show, the heart of this show, is this young woman who's just can we just talk? Because most people in any sort of heightened situation, they're heightened because a lot of the time they haven't been listened to, and that's very true in that first episode with the father. He feels left behind, he feels disregarded by community, by his own family, his own world that he's surrounded by, and so yeah, that's the stuff that appeals to me in the show.
I love that. I know I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot, but I'm very curious. Any particular moments, actually let me backtrack. Any days on set that you had, and I'm sure there could be numerous, but one particular moment or a day that you were just like, wow, I'm here, I get to do this. I'm here with this cast and crew. I am living my purpose. Like, this is what I'm meant to be doing right now.
Yeah, so a moment that stands out to me is, actually you saw it in the pilot, excuse me, but I don't think we ended up shooting it until we were about 2 or 3 weeks into production, just because of our schedule. And that's the scene where, during her graduation ceremony, Sabrina goes up there and she gives the speech. And we had, I think, something like 270 background performers there that day. And so, the beauty of production design and everything in film is that you kind of get to live these moments. You don't have to do it in your imagination if you're, working a different kind of gig. And so I remember being up there giving a speech, and quoting Viola Davis, and like looking out at the sea of faces, and really like feeling that I was where I belonged. And I had Nimisha Mukherjee. I don't know if you know Nimisha.
I know, I've interviewed her.
Yeah.
I've known her for a long time.
Yeah, and so Nimisha and I had a nice moment when we were directing, when she was directing one of the episodes, and not a plug to myself, but like it was a moment where she said to me, she was like, we had done a scene, it was a little bit tough, and she came up to me and she said, she was like, it's so great to watch you work. She's like, it's and she was a bit like emotional just saying this, and she was like, she's like, it's great to watch you work, because she's like, it's so clear that you love to do this, and that you should be doing this, and wild that up until now you and other women who look like you have not had the opportunity to do this. And she was like, it just like and for her to be on the other side of that camera too, for both of us to be in that relationship with each other, and for her to say, it's kind of crazy because I can see, that it's crazy that so much talent is out there and they haven't been given the space or the opportunity. And like for me, I like, even when I was working on a show like Sort of, right? We go on, and you have like a couple days with
You work with one of my dear friends, Durrani.
Oh, Durrani, yeah. Played my father.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And so, but even on those days, it's like, when you're the lead of a show, you get to do it every day. And there's something to be said about just that muscle that you get to flex. And, as actors, we need other people around us in order to work our craft. And so even up until now, like in my career, I've only gotten like 3 or 4 days in a block, and you go and you do your work and you think like, oh, I didn't quite hit it. And if I got a chance to go back, I would do it differently, or I would get to, show this side of this character. And that has been such a learning curve for me in terms of showing up and just having the opportunity to practice the thing that I love, and practice every day. And the more and more opportunities that we give to people of color, because I think that, there's this rhetoric out there. It's like, yeah, we would have hired somebody of color, but, the talent pool wasn't there.
I've heard that before, and that really, really upsets me.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you know how many talented BIPOC artists, actors there are? I actually called a director, producer friend of mine out who I was dating at the moment, and after a few conversations, I was like, you know what? This is not really going to go anywhere just because of your beliefs. This is not. His entire film, it was all Caucasian cast, everyone, and I'm like, are you telling me in a city like Vancouver that it's filled with talented actors?
Yeah.
That you couldn't find one person? Like, give them like one line? You couldn't find one individual?
Yeah, it blows you away. And then the answer is, well, and sometimes like it takes resources, because sometimes, to work with somebody who doesn't have as much experience as the guy to the left of him, because those roles haven't been there for, the brown guy, the black man, or whatever, as they have been for the Caucasian characters. So of course they're going to be a bit better, quote unquote, just because they're more experienced. And so often it does take some resources and somebody to put their foot down and say, nope, like I want to build, and I want to. And so often it's like, you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the excuses, and it's like, it's short-sighted, because I think that when you hire the people who are represented, I heard this great thing, and I think it was from an Indigenous storyteller, like, nothing about us without us. And so I think that, when you bring those people to the table, and like you see it with like shows like Kim's Convenience or Rami, that have those voices, and even with Late Bloomer, like Just Meet Raina's new show, that you get great storytelling because you get an entrance into worlds that we haven't seen before, and people are hungry for that kind of content. I'm just thinking of like the shows that I love.
And well produced, because that is what I got from Allegiance. Like I was mentioning earlier, I have not seen a show. It's kind of fascinating. There's memes on Instagram that are like, yeah, let me figure out what I'm watching tonight, or let me waste all my time trying to find something to watch, because you spend so much time just trying to find something to watch. But Allegiance, from the cast, the way that it's cut, the way it's shot, the beautiful, like, they're making Surrey look phenomenal.
It's stunning. The
And
trains.
yes,
Did you see the
the
trains?
bridges, the mountains. You're like, oh my god, when am I going to Surrey next? It is so well done. Lark Productions, CBC, everyone, the DP, like whoever edited the show has done a phenomenal job. I want to talk about Anar Ali. Like, I had a moment with her yesterday, and also when I got to meet you at your unofficial launch party last year.
Yeah.
Just hearing her passion about sharing this story. And, a question was asked yesterday. I feel, it was worded something like, okay, a South Asian lead, and how would someone else who is not South Asian watch this? But for me, this is just a show.
It's a great show. Yeah.
And you just happen to be South Asian, who is the lead.
Yeah.
But this is a show, and this is a great story with many different characters.
Yeah.
So what was it like working closely with Anar Ali?
Oh, it's a dream. It's a dream. So Anar and I know each other. We met years ago when at the CFC, the Canadian Film Centre, after I had done the Actors Conservatory, and the year after she was doing the writers program, I think, and she'd written a short film, and someone within the CFC, I think, had reached out to me to audition for it, and it was just like there was we talked recently, and she was in an interview for CBC Books, and she was talking about Jhumpa Lahiri, who's an American Indian writer, and I was like, oh, you love Jhumpa? I was like, I love Jhumpa Lahiri. Like, we just gushed over like her stories or whatever, but there was a kinship from the beginning in terms of, we liked the same things, we had like an affinity for we were just very similar in our tastes, and the film that she had wrote was beautiful, and then we went our separate ways, and I always wanted to work with her again. And so, but when I got the audition for this part, and I knew that Anar had created the show, I honestly thought that she was like doing me like a friend favor by bringing me in for the part. Because like, again, Zara, I was in this place where like I just didn't see myself as Sabrina. And so when I went in for that audition, I was like, this is Anar being a friend of mine and being a good friend, and saying, I've written a Sikh Punjabi character, and I have this friend who's Sikh Punjabi and an actor, so she'll probably feel ways if we don't bring her in to see her for this part. And I'm really, I have a lot of gratitude for her, because sometimes people who know you and take the time to know you can see things inside you that you really can't see for yourself. And she said that she wrote this thinking of me, and so the fact that we've been on this journey and have found ourselves here, it's just, it's really also reassuring, because like I remember when I started acting, and I always thought that my big break would come in a different way. I always thought it would come from like a big studio or a big, and I've really just gotten lucky that like even with sort of like Bilal Baig, who created that show, I knew them. They had, worked on a show that I had written, and Fab Filippo had played a love interest, and Anara was a friend of mine. So I've really been given these opportunities, people who are friends. It's a nice way to work.
I love that. And I also want to say that you're phenomenal. Like, watching you, I believe you are Sabrina. To me, it didn't really feel like acting. You're just so grounded. It's just so subtle. There's no like, someone posted, this friend of mine, Robin Ross, she posted something about actorbation, it's like when you're just squeezing the emotion on you. And I was watching you, and it's so nice to see you on the big screen. Your work, all these things that are just subtly happening. Like when, I forget the character's name, he says to you, the guy who's playing I think his real name is Tom, but he's saying to you,
Gavin,
people like you who join them, and you just take that in, and it's not like a big one, but you see how that it's so phenomenal watching your work. I was like, wow, this is like being in an acting class almost, because I really truly just enjoyed watching you perform.
Oh, thanks. But that's also like, that's a team, right? Like that really isn't like, that's editing, that's directing. Take the
compliment, Supinder. There's a reason why you're on that poster. There's a reason why, and I also want to say to everyone, like even before today, when I got to meet Supinder, you did not know me, and in December when we met at she just comes over, gives me this big hug, and
I didn't have met you, but I know of you.
I know, we're seeing your pictures. I'm like, wow. I said to Micah after, I'm like, damn. And he told me time and again how amazing it was and how magical it was to work on this show with people like Agam Darshi, Stephen Lobo, Supinder, Anar. Like, I constantly heard these stories, and I truly believe it starts from top down. Like, the energy the number one is bringing in, it sort of just trickles down into the whole show. Can you talk a little bit about the energy on set? I know you guys have to run soon. I'm being mindful of time. But I want to talk a little bit about behind the scenes, because it was, as much as people are going to enjoy watching this show, it was a joy for you guys working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I've been acting for a while, and you get to some sets, and there's just like an energy, and it usually comes from the top down. And so I'd watched a lot of people lead shows, and so for me, you always have this idea in your head of, you're like, okay, if I get to do this, here's how I would do it. And one of the things that was really important for me was, I know what kind of work I did on the set when I didn't feel safe. And safe in the sense, like, I wasn't, like, I was being judged, or I was being rushed, or I wasn't, like, not physically safe, but, like, this thing that we're asked to do, it's vulnerable. Whether you're actually doing a vulnerable scene, but you're showing up, you don't know these people, you're asked to play pretend. Like, people are putting things on your face and your hair and your body, and then you're shoved into this thing, you don't get a rehearsal, and you're just like, go, right? And so for me, it was really important to create an atmosphere that when people came there, they could feel safe, so that they do their best work across the board. I think that that's the only way to make good art. And so between myself and Rico too, it was just, we tried to create as warm of an atmosphere when people arrived on our set from the very beginning, to say hello to anybody who was even coming on for a day, to know people's names, to not take ourselves so seriously, to have conversations in between scenes. And while we're sitting here and we're talking about Micah Gilbert, we should give him his flowers, because I look like this today.
You look stunning.
Because he is so talented, and Micah would show me your pictures all the time while we were on set. And so when we met, I was like, yeah, I know you. So it wasn't like I didn't know you.
I'm so
just hadn't met
flattered.
you yet.
I know, you're so sweet. I'm
Yeah.
so flattered.
Yes.
You feel like a cousin, a sister, and that's why I got emotional, because it's like, I made these videos and I was like, yeah, this is the star of the show, and this is a moment for us. This is such a moment, and that's why me along with others. I was talking to Manu yesterday, and saying, and she's like, yeah, I'm doing this for us, and I was like, yeah, this is for us. Like the more of us that show up. I remember when I first moved to Canada 24 years ago, and I was modeling, and it's like seeing all these billboards, all these things. No one who looked like me, you know, they would be the token, okay, we're going to throw this person in who can look sort of Caucasian still, with still kind of Caucasian features. But to have you, and then to hear you speaking Punjabi, you know, so beautifully on camera.
Yeah, and I also, you know, just had this thought, which I, you know, I hadn't considered before, but it's also just like, it's for us to have that moment of recognition and pride, and hopefully like a transference of confidence, right, when we walk out into the world. But I also think that it does this beautiful thing for people who don't know people like us, for people who just see, you know, that you look a certain way, that whatever, oh, like,
They're just reading the news that this is what happened in Surrey.
Yeah, or even for women. I think, you know, I think that there's a segment of the population that just sees us as sort of this two-dimensional thing, especially when it comes to women of color who have been eroticized, you know, sometimes infantilized, like, of these things. To see a character like Sabrina, even if they're watching it for the purpose of just watching a cop show, I think that transference of, oh, this, you know, she's opinionated, and she's strong, and she's courageous, and she has good opinions, and she's smart, that hopefully for those, you know, people with less of an imagination, this show will also serve a purpose, that maybe that other young South Asian woman that I know in my life, or woman of color, or whatever, is also smart and has opinions, and like, so that's kind of a nice, like, you know, Venn diagram of the whole thing.
And when we see that representation, when we see us on billboards, in interviews, speaking eloquently, it changes little by little. You know, it's like growing up in Pakistan, when I'm watching Full House or Hollywood movies or My Best Friend's Wedding or Sesame Street or whatever you call it, 90210. I'm creating ideas subliminally in the back of my brain that I am not cool enough, or I am not, because people like me are not seen, are not shown on television, because subconsciously back then the little me believed that, okay, you didn't matter. Versus now that, you know, I'm sure girls in school, in elementary, high school, and college watching you, and they're like proudly watching, yes, we're tuning in at 9 p.m. on CBC and CBC Gem tonight to watch Supinder's show. Tell me about...
That's so beautifully said. That's so beautifully said. Yeah.
And I never recognized that how that was impacting me subconsciously, you know, that how it, your mom, you know, I don't have kids, but you know, how it impacts children when they see people who look like us on television. It creates that sense of we belong.
Yeah, and it is like, and so, and kind of that same thing of, you know, fostering this environment of on set, where everybody who walked in was like, you know, we belong. To have that feeling community-wide, when you feel like you belong, you're able to take more risks. You're able to be a bit more courageous. You're able to speak your mind a little bit more. And so, like, that's a really nice transference of things that, like, it takes a long time, you know, because the things that you're describing, they're systematic, right? Like that sort of subconscious, like, thoughts that you have about yourself. To undo that takes a long time, and I think that this show is a wonderful place to start. And luckily, and I see it in the landscape, we are seeing more and more, and the more that there is, we can come to a place of parity. You know, that we're all on equal footing, and that's a nice world to live in.
I'm sure there's a lot of people watching, or who are going to watch this show once it's uploaded, but that we're also live streaming right now, who are aspiring artists and actors, and they will love to hear some words of wisdom from you. You know, what I would like to hear what you would say to them, and also what you would say to the younger Supinder.
I think that, you know, there's this, and I'll say it from like a vantage point of, I'm here now as the lead of the series, and I have played many roles in my life to get here as an actor and as an artist. I think that I had this idea that when I got here, that it would be different, right? That I had to be better than I was then. And I think it's a misconception. You know, I think that the actual day-to-day work that I'm doing, learning my lines, being present in front of my partner, doing my script analysis, you know, that is no different than when I did the short film with Anar years and years ago. There's no secret, you know, there's nothing that I learned a year ago or whatever that I'm like, oh, all of a sudden I can play a lead, right? The job is the same. The job doesn't change. And so it's just like, you know, so much of this is luck and opportunity, and to be ready when that opportunity comes. What that means is just do your work. There's nothing else. Just do your work. Learn your lines. You know, read great plays. Or if you're an artist, you know, if you're a visual artist or whatever, but just know your craft, because that doesn't change whether it's, you know, a movie you make with your friends for a couple $1,000, couple $100 or whatever, or a series like this. That work of acting, knowing your lines, seeing glasses, being present in front of your partner is the same.
I love that, and that's just like who you are. You know, it's so humble, so humble. I super love that. Tell me one episode that our viewers need to watch out for, other than the one airing tonight.
You know, we have a lot. Like, I think that's like the beauty about the show is it really does represent what is happening in our communities in this world. I really love our final episodes 9 and 10 because we delve into Surrey and, you know, a Punjabi household and Punjabi boys and, you know, brown Munde, like what they're dealing with, gang culture. One of the episodes is directed by Agam Darshi, who is, you know, beloved by so many of us. And yeah, I really, you know, stick with it and get to those episodes because they're some of my favorite.
Well, I can't wait. I'm so excited that you were able to join us. I know you're visiting from Toronto, and you guys have a full schedule planned today. This is your last day of your press tour. You're flying back tomorrow, and we got you just before you left. What?
But Zara, it's so lovely that you say you got me. Like we were gonna like. It's so important. Like what you do, what you're doing here, is so important for you to amplify our voice. We could not do this without you. And so you didn't get us. We came here to see you so we could have this conversation. Because this is what it's about supporting each other. And so
and crying together.
Yeah, and crying together. And you can have us whenever you want us. Yeah. And this is how it works. We're here for each other.
Thank you. You're a gem. You're a gem. Like, cry twice during this interview. That's
you are a beautiful crier.
I'm so honored. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this show. I'm ending this with my tears in my eyes, but happy tears, very happy tears. Supinder, it was so amazing watching the premiere yesterday in Surrey. I feel like it was such a full circle moment for me. Seeing you on that big screen is a moment for many of us.
And that 25-year anniversary.
Completely. And I went to school in Surrey, you know. Yeah. My family is in Surrey, and then to be there for the City Hall and see this amazing event that was there yesterday, to see everyone from Lark and CBC and all the cast and crew and watch the premiere. So you guys need to tune in this evening, 9 p.m., CBC and CBC Gem.
Or watch it right now.
Or watch it right now on
CBC
Gem. And I'm telling you, you're going to be hanging on to the edge of your seats. And get your popcorn ready. You need to enjoy this show. Do not miss any episode of Allegiance. And make sure to also Instagram and tweet us and, you know, tag Supinder. Let her know what you're thinking about the show. I know I'm going to be watching it again. I have the second episode, so I'm dying to see what
Yeah,
happens in the
yeah.
second episode. What's gonna happen with Steven Lobo, who is arriving in 5 minutes
Oh my
over
God, I'm
here.
interested.
So, guys, thank you so much, Supinder. Thank you so much.
Zara, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Ah.